am compelled by Schlock.
Well, when it schlocks, it pours. Welcome, everybody. I am Darby Ellis Lewis Wilson, and joining me is Chris Anonymous, and we are your hosts for our Schlocky show. Tonight, we are talking about a movie called Dead and Buried that came out in 1981. And Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, you chose this movie because last week we watched Dark Star, that was written and starring Dan O'Bannon, correct? And you picked it because this movie was also supposedly written by Dan O'Bannon. You can see behind me, it says, "The writers of Alien bring a new terror to Earth."
And he's got screenwriting credit.
Yeah, so that's very interesting. I think we both know this now, so we'll let the cat out of the bag. He actually, it seems like he didn't write it. The producers asked him if he would put his name on it, so they could get his name on the movie to sell it. I don't know if it sell to a company or just to sell tickets in general, with the idea that he would have kind of not final say, but he would be able to go back over the script and do some edits to it and work on it some, which apparently never happened, or maybe it did happen and it didn't make it into the movie.
Yeah,
is that correct?
We'll talk about, I think. I mean, it's kind of vague what they're saying, but we'll talk about the other writer.
Yeah,
in Web of Schlock. But yeah,
we'll get into it. I just wanted you to know. I wanted everyone to know up front that this pick is a complete sham. So we started on a lie. But so this movie, pretty interesting. It came out in 1981. That's 2 years after Alien hit, and that was a big movie that came out in 1979. The movie costs about $3 million to make, and it made, and I don't know if this is accurate at all, because it seems like such a low number, $216,166 at the box office. That is a very low number. I do all my research on Wikipedia, so it's probably 100% true all the time. But I mean, I think this movie gained a cult following later in its life. So I don't know. I wouldn't be completely surprised if it didn't make a lot of money. One of the things that perhaps contributed to it not making a lot of money is that it, in the UK, was considered a video nasty.
Ooh.
Which I think that's really interesting. That's usually reserved for like grindhouse type movies, right? Am I thinking of the video nasties, right?
Yeah. This seems a little light to be considered a video nasty.
Right.
I mean, it's definitely an R-rated movie. There's blood and guts and some nudity, but it feels a little light for something.
Some
like
intense scenes of violence and gore, but it's pretty spread out. I think one of the things that maybe contributed to it was, so I guess the director very specifically tried to make it so that there wasn't any red in any of the scenes until
the death
until there was blood. Yeah. So it would be more striking. And so perhaps that added to like the jolt of seeing.
Yeah. On a subconscious level, it's a cool move. Yeah.
So so there was a very, very distinct style to this. They like shot on some nice days, and the director made them like build big canvases, flags to like block out the beauty of the day. And apparently there's some like pretty innovative shots in this where they really had to kind of invent some new things to get like some very long takes. And it sounds like ultimately a lot of that like didn't make it into the movie like in its pure form. So this movie has a lot to talk about. So we're going to get into it. Wherever you're watching, either live or on YouTube, make sure you like, comment, and definitely give us a subscribe. Join in the conversation and take the journey with us. Be warned, however, we will spoil this movie. We will spoil every movie on the planet. So you just got to be a movie buff to be with us.
We're going to spoil everything. Also, check out our website and follow us on Twitter. We're at Schlock Show. So we'll continue the conversation there throughout the week. And so you can follow us there and get your daily fix of Compelled by Schlock until you see us again.
And so we'll kick on with the rest of the show. Kind of the format is we talk about the web of Schlock, how everything is connected. Then we kind of go into good and bad, what we liked and didn't like about the movie. Then we talk Schlock. It's what is Schlock? I don't know. We'll figure it out at the end. It's a catch-all for everything about the movie. And especially this week, make sure you stick around to the end because we have some new things coming up in the coming weeks. So you'll definitely want to hear the announcement on those. So Chris, take me away, you beautiful man.
All right. Web of Schlock, director Gary Sherman. Did a lot of minor horror and other things, some TV, but Poltergeist 3, that was another thing that we can throw at him. Let's go through actors. Melody Anderson, who plays the wife in this film, Flash Gordon.
Oh, really?
Yep, she was the main lead female in Flash Gordon. Yeah, we'll have to do Flash Gordon one of these days.
Absolutely.
That might be like a watch party at my house type thing.
It's a great idea.
The Undertaker, Jack Albertson. That's the grandpa from Willy Wonka.
Is it?
Yeah, the Undertaker in this movie.
No way.
Yeah, it's the grandpa from Willy Wonka. And this is his last feature film. He died. He was able to see a cut of this movie, evidently, and then he passed away.
It probably killed him.
I think he was proud of this.
he was a very interesting character.
I wouldn't say a young Robert Englund, but a younger pre-Freddy.
Yeah, it was 3 years before Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yep. So just
Very
lots
cool.
of little bit actors doing cool things here. The writer, the real writer, Ron Shusett, I think I'm probably saying it wrong. So he wrote this. He has story credit on Alien. He worked with Dan O'Bannon again later on Total Recall. And so I don't know if maybe Dan O'Bannon and him hashed out part of this story idea. There's two other writers just have story credit on this, and it's also based on a novel. So it gets kind of convoluted when we're in there. Another movie that Ron did, and I think he might have even directed it. Do you remember Free Jack?
I know the name. I don't think I've seen the movie. Know what it's about. You
will have to check it out. It's early 90s pure schlock.
Is it Jack Nicholson in prison?
It is not.
And he have to free Jack?
It's bounty hunters from the future transporting a doomed race car driver to New York in 2009, where his mind is replaced with that of a dead billionaire. And it stars Emilio Estevez and Mick Jagger.
All right.
Yeah, and he did not direct it. He just wrote it. But I loved Free Jack. We will definitely have to find where that's streaming. And that's really it for the Web of Schlock. We touched on the Dan O'Bannon maybe wrote part of it, but it didn't make it into the movie, and he kind of disowned it and said, "Yeah, it wasn't me." But sometimes they take it back later on. So who knows?
Yeah, well, once people start to like it.
Yeah, let's get into the good and the bad. What do you got?
Yeah, so let's. I'll rapid fire these, and then I think there's a lot to talk about here. We can get it in the schlock. So for me, good. Obviously, I love zombies. If you didn't know, this movie is about zombies, and particularly voodoo zombies, which is something that you really don't see a lot, and certainly not today. But they're prior to zombies being like a viral infection.
Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah. So
you had the voodoo zombies.
Yeah, I thought that was a really awesome take, and I'm really glad to see that. The movie, it kept me guessing, it kept me engaged. We talked about this, how like there's some weird stuff in it, but I was invested in this movie, so you have to give them props for that. I really enjoyed all of the quirky characters. They all seemed to have like a different accent or different quirks about them. Dobbs, the mortician, definitely was my favorite character in it. He was just so odd. And the biggest thing for me in this is Stan Winston, the master of special effects, worked on this movie. And I think we have some shots of it that I'd like to show all the people who are watching this. So Freddy, not Freddy Kruger, but Freddy in this movie, he gets all burned up. I thought his burnt corpse like looked amazing. Like I was like, man, this is very graphic.
Especially when he starts screaming.
Yeah. And I would have put a picture up here, but I thought it would maybe be a little too graphic as someone's scrolling through Facebook or something and this like burnt corpse comes up. But when he's like all mummified, he's got all of the gauze around him. So this shot, I didn't realize this until I was reading about the movie. This is like a mannequin. Stan Winston created this. I thought that this was just a person, like an actual human being just wrapped up in gauze, and they maybe did some things, but it's that eye. That eye looks so real, and it moves around, and the way they did the sound design to like have him breathing, just amazing. And we have another scene called the reconstruction scene where Dobbs the mortician is reconstructing the hitchhiker girl's face, where her face gets smashed in with the rock, and he is reconstructing her face for proper burial. And I thought that was a very cool scene. Those are actually Stan Winston's hands in that scene, reconstructing her. They do a really great gag where they open up her eye, and there's no eyeball in there. He puts an eyeball in, and then she gets up later and walks, and it's all one long shot, one long take, like I said, and they had to do some trickery in there.
Yeah, his elbow like blocks the camera for like 3 seconds, and they swap out.
Yeah, I mean, that's just amazing to me. I love special effects, and that's a big reason why I love horror movies. However, we do see some bad special effects in this, particularly when the doctor he gets like some acid shoved up his nose and his face like melts off. That was actually not Stan Winston.
Right, and you can tell.
It's night and day. Like it literally looks like a mannequin.
I'm watching it and I'm loving the special effects, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be good. And then it's just awful. Yeah. And then I read about it. I'm like, oh, okay. That's why it's awful.
When I saw it, when I was in the moment of watching it, like my heart sank because I was like, oh, Stan, no. And then here it is. Yeah, you can just totally tell it's fake. And so it was good to hear that it was a different company and not my man Stan Winston. So that's my good. Going into the bad, really the movie, it had a lot of kind of twists and turns. Ultimately, I just kept getting disappointed in the direction that it headed and where it ended up. I feel like at the end, it just really sort of went off the rails. Once we find out that Dobbs is the master, the ultimate bad guy, and he has like, it's a really cool shot. He's got like all of these projectors up showing like all of his kills and reconstructions. The shot itself is very cool, but from that point on, it's like the movie just kind of takes this weird surrealist nosedive to me. Something that I thought was weird. So apparently all of these people in the town, or the vast majority of them, are zombies, but yet they're like going about their daily lives, and they all go about their daily lives like they're, but it all seems to be a game for the sheriff. And in the end, like they never explained the game. Like, why is Dobbs playing the game with the sheriff? And we can get more into that with Schlock.
I have a lot to say about that.
But that was probably my biggest problem with it, was that they don't explain why in any way.
Right.
And so that's, I think, ultimately why it left a sour taste in my mouth. So we'll circle back around.
Yeah.
What are your good and bads?
I liked the moodiness. I liked the strange tone. I loved the special effects, except for the bad special effects, which will go into my bad. I love the dusty lighting. It's so dreamlike. The whole movie has this dreamlike quality because, except for when the townspeople are like congregating, there's so much empty space and there's so much just dusty lighting of like a hallway with no one in it. Like we're here, the car's going to pull up, but like it's just diffuse, right? And there's this foggy kind of dustiness that's just like this weird dream world, and you combine that with how empty it is, and I really like that feeling. I like. You say you like zombie movies. I like zombie movies, especially voodoo zombie movies. And you were talking about they don't do that a whole lot anymore. It was kind of after, Night of the Living Dead, they kind of switched to the zombies how they are now. But before that, most of the zombies were voodoo zombies. I'm thinking King of the Zombies. Lots of great 30s, 40s, and 50s movies that have the voodoo zombies, even in like some comedies, I think like Jerry Lewis and Dean Martin's Scared Stiff and stuff. Like the idea of, are they dead? Are they like almost like asleep and they're like, just under a spell? It's very interesting. And I love that whole take, but I also love sleepy seaside towns as a setting for horror movies. So much of this reminded me of The Fog. Yeah. And I was thinking that exact same thing. It's not like plot wise or anything like that. It's just an overall kind of vibe. The seaside town, the water, the boats, the fishermen, the kind of fogginess. And also something in this that I really loved that was also in The Fog was the whole idea of it felt like a campfire horror story. And now for the bad. There's some bad special effects. There's some bad acting. The strange tone that I have in the good, it's also in the bad. The story goes off the rails in the end. And with that final twist, it makes absolutely no sense. There's some weird editing and story structure stuff and beats that are just don't work. But yeah, that's really it for bad. There's lots in this I really liked. I wish that it all would have came together a little bit more. But do you want to get into Schlock?
Yeah, I'll get into it, kind of co-telling onto that. So you talked about how you really liked the dusty and the foggy nature of the film, how it looked. And you said it was very dreamlike. And so there are these weird editing beats. Like in some places I had trouble discerning like the time, like where, like how much time there was taking place in between certain scenes. And I think you're right. It ultimately, the entire movie has this dreamlike feel. And so when we were kind of talking about this prior to the show, but the end seems to really go off the rails, but I think that they do set it up. So the whole thing is like a dream, like it is like literally like a foggy memory.
And here, the other thing about dreams, you're having a dream and it feels very real, right? And then all of a sudden something just super weird, like your dream starts going off the rails, and that's when you realize it's a dream.
Right. Yeah.
But it's always toward the end of the dream, like, wait a minute, no. Yeah. And that's kind of what happens here. There's so much of it schlocky. The ending is what I have the most problem with. Let me fix these. If we can pull that photo up, and spoiler alert, this is some Sixth Sense stuff right here.
He's been a zombie the whole time.
He's a zombie. Oh. So you talked about it, how it's a game, and maybe that's in there. We'll have to discuss it more, but like, if he's a zombie, none of this makes sense. Like, this would be such a better movie if this one cop's in town and slowly realizes that everyone in town is a zombie.
Right.
Right. But the fact that he's in on it and then like doesn't realize it, but the main guy can do like, he says, I can put the memories in. They only remember what I want them to remember. So if that's true, then why is he having the sheriff not remember when everyone else in the entire village goes on these killing sprees?
Right. Well, I don't know. So the mortician, he says why he likes the wife. But okay, he likes her. Why would he be giving special treatment to her husband? Right? There's not a connection of the relationship there. The best he says is that I enjoy our little chess matches, meaning like they're back and forth banter. But really, it's not like they're trying to like put one over on the other, right? It's just more like the mortician says weird stuff all the time, and the sheriff is like, ugh, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not like they're trying to prove who's smarter or better.
Yeah, they're not one upping each other. It's just like, man, you're a weirdo.
But with the picture that you showed with his hands, like you'll notice throughout the movie, he's scratching his hands. And I noticed this another thing very early on. I thought I was going to put this in bad, but there was like so much exposition. Like people were saying, of course I would know that because I'm the school principal. And when we like first get the scene in the diner, they like explain to the sheriff like, oh yeah, they sent you to get this fancy education. And then I realized like, oh, maybe it's not like bad writing with bad exposition. Maybe everyone is like reminding each other, but specifically him, like, this is who you are. This is your role in our community.
The conceit just doesn't work though, because they wouldn't be going about their daily lives except for when people came to town, because they're only targeting strangers who come to town, right? And I don't know. I mean, when you walk in, maybe if there was a pause and then everyone starts up doing their things again.
Right. Yeah, that seems more logical to me. And it makes it so that Dobbs doesn't really have like a good motivation to do what he does.
Right. Like there should have been some kind of thing where, well, in this picture, this is where I thought the movie was going to get really cool. And it just totally went somewhere I didn't want it to go. I didn't want her to be a zombie. I didn't think that was a great twist. I think I wanted her. Go ahead.
Let's say it on 3.
Okay.
I wanted her
to
1,
be
2, 3 to be the mastermind.
Yeah. Yep. I wanted her to be a witch, a voodoo priestess, and that she was controlling the Undertaker and everyone else, and that he would have to confront his wife, who was still human, and he was still human. That is a very interesting story.
I would have liked the Undertaker, the mortician Dobbs, to not be a zombie, but just to be like, be maybe the only other human, and like she's taking advantage of his skill to like make people look normal. And
they hinted at that when he's like, there's a body missing. When he goes to, I'm like,
but again, that's a game. That's a game though. And so why would he do that? Because he's playing a game. There's no reason for the game.
Right. Well, so it's very much like Highway to Hell, where the devil's just playing this game with the main character, but there's no real point to the game. Yeah.
He's just messing with them just purely.
And like, I would be okay with that if the main guy at the end was like, why, if I'm a zombie, why did you go through this whole movie? You know, even if you said, I was bored. I wanted to mess with you. I wanted to see what you do.
Right.
That's enough. But they didn't do that. So you're just left with like.
So Dobbs is like, you can kill me. I'll just like become one of my creations. There are a couple of problems with that. Well, one, if he becomes a zombie, how can he like still be master over them? But put that aside. Let's say that maybe that was his ultimate end, was that like he wanted the sheriff to kill him so that he could become one of his creations. Like, so he was like leading him down this trail to ultimately kill him. Like that could have been interesting. I think the other version is more interesting that we just said, but there's just no motivation. We didn't get it at all. Well, buddy, I think I've lost your audio.
Am I there now?
You are there now.
Oh, weird.
I'm sure what you said was very engaging, though.
No, I was actually not even talking. I was just mouthing. I was like,
"You're just messing with me, just being a zombie."
No, he could have had anyone kill him. He didn't need the sheriff to do it, and he could have set it up like, if I want to be a zombie, you kill me, do X, Y, and Z. The other interesting thing is it has to be a violent death. So how did the sheriff die?
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, we don't know. Oh wait, we do know. He's like all stabbed, but they needed to be like
the wife
did it need to be violent,
or
did they need to be disfigured?
I heard both in it. The other thing I want to bring up before we go is the haunted house sequence. That's so weird to me. And evidently they had to shoot it inside of a big tent to black everything out. So there was like no air and there was no sound. So everything is dubbed.
Yeah, I thought like so every once in a while watching on Tubi, like the audio gets off, and so I like start it and stop it again. I like kept doing that, but apparently they did that for child labor laws because kids like can't work at night or something. So since they had this kid, they're like, well, we'll just put it in a tent.
Yeah, and just dub everything at all. That was one of the worst scenes. It just looked awful. It was so weird. Also very dreamlike. There were parts in it I liked, and I liked the whole town coming at them, and you're like, oh, they're all bad guys. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. This whole movie had a very Shutter Island feel to me, except it didn't really pull off its twist at the end.
Well, and the other interesting thing I was reading is that, the whole not Stan Winston special effects and other stuff that came in because they wanted more shots of gore and different things because originally the director wanted this to be more of a dark comedy. And then the third production company that came on is like, no, we want it scarier. So Stan Winston was already gone. So they had to get these others in, but they also re-edited the film. So that scene actually takes place later in the original cut, and the hitchhiker takes place earlier because the hitchhiker is actually in that haunted house thing. She's one of the people there. Yeah. So we see her there, and then we see her get kidnapped and killed and turned into a zombie. So like it's even out of order. Here's my final take on this movie, and then I'll let you say your piece. It's like you went to a movie, right? And then you're at work the next day, and there's this dude at work who's he thinks he's great at storytelling, but he's really awful. And he's telling everyone around the water fountain, like he's telling them the plot of the movie, but he's messing it all up, right? And there's still good bits in there. And there's a cool movie, but it's just the storyteller's just this really bad, like, storyteller, like, forgets bits of, like, why are they making this film? Why are all the cameras here? Who cares about that? And he gets stuff out of order. And, like, sometimes he describes stuff and the special effects are really cool. And sometimes it's really bad. So, yeah, it's like a really great campfire tale told by a really bad storyteller.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, that's... I think that's a pretty accurate take. And that's why, again, for me, I really wanted to love this movie. And there were things that I really did like about it. I was really engaged, but ultimately I just kept getting more and more disappointed.
Your whole game theory makes me want to rewatch it with that in mind, though. I will give you that. That's a very interesting take of, like, maybe there's this, like, really deep layer of, like, back and forth. Yeah, well, and as far as I know, they don't explore it. They talk about Dobbs's background, how he was fired from another job, which, again, I was still thinking, like, he's not it. He's not the guy. He's not the mastermind, because, like, even though he got fired for doing, like, untold things to bodies, they don't say what it is. Right. So it might not have been experimentation or whatever. Yeah. It's really weird. They just play some things, like, really close to the chest, and then other things they just, like, show you all of it, and it just kind of leaves you I was hoping for that Lost Boys moment where instead of the the mom's boyfriend, it's the wife.
Exactly. So, sorry, taking a big gulp here. So yeah, we're coming up to the end of this. We got to talk about next week in the upcoming weeks.
Yeah,
so,
what are we watching next week?
So I am in school. I think I've talked about this before. So we will be pulling from the vault next week because I have papers to do. So we'll be pulling out Ice Cream Man and we'll be putting that up on YouTube. The week after that, we will be talking about the new Doctor Strange movie in the Multiverse of Madness and the Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah,
so
we'll do a special episode where we just kind of spoil that for you.
Yeah, we're gonna totally spoil. We'll do a spoiler-free review up front, and then all bets are off. How about that?
Right.
All right.
Sounds good.
I'm Darby Ellis Lewis Wilson. This is Chris Anonymous. We'll see you next time. Peace, everybody.
Bye. Schlock. Schlock. Schlocky. Schlock. 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 I am compelled by Schlock. Compelled by Schlock. Compelled by Schlock. Wait, no.